This is National Indigenous People Day in Canada. For the first time in 3 years, people are finally able to gather after the pandemic in groups to mark the start of this day. So these are scenes from just a few moments ago at the sunrise ceremony at Nathan Phillips Square in Toronto. This is a day to celebrate the heritage, the diversity, the contributions of First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples in this country. Of course, it coincides with the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. Filming our crew there at Nathan Phillips Square. Part of our crew is Linda Ward, up early for the sunrise ceremony and live with us this morning. Tell us all about it, Linda.
Well, Heather, the sunrise ceremony is still underway behind me here. It got underway, of course, just as the sun came up here over Nathan Phillips Square, just outside of Toronto City Hall, underneath the 5 Indigenous flags that fly out here in Nathan Phillips Square. We've seen hundreds of people, at least a couple of hundred people here this morning gathering around this fire. They've passed tobacco around to be held in the left hand because that is, of course, the hand that is closest to the heart. It represents communication with the spirit world. We've seen a water ceremony. There has been some drumming and singing, and they will soon be, we're told, passing berries around here, around the circle, of very important food and of medicine, of course, as well for Indigenous people. After this is done this morning, Heather, we're going to be hearing from some elders. We're going to be hearing from chiefs from nearby Indigenous communities around the Greater Toronto area, and we're going to be hearing from Toronto's mayor as well as they mark this very significant day for Indigenous people in Canada.
Significant for so many reasons, but this one in 2022, the first time they've been able to gather in a group like that behind you since pre-pandemic. And how much more did it add to really, I guess, the emotion of the day?
Yeah, I've been coming to this sunrise ceremony for at least the last 7 or 8 years here, Heather. For the last, of course, couple of years, there hasn't been a public ceremony. There have been more private, smaller ceremonies. So to have a gathering like this again is very significant for people. I've been asking people in this crowd what it means for them to be coming back. They say for many, it marks the return of, this long-standing tradition. But I've also spoken with people here who've come out for the first time, who feel that they really need this day to kind of reflect on what has happened. It's an opportunity, they say, to offer prayers, to reflect on, some of the difficulties that have happened over the last couple of years, the revelation of children's graves outside of so-called Indigenous schools across Canada, of course, struggling with that revelation as well, at the same time as dealing with a pandemic that has disproportionately affected Indigenous communities across Canada, and many also mentioning, some of the severe weather events that we've seen that thrust climate change right into the forefront of many people's realities, Indigenous communities here in Canada. For so many people here today, it's very moving and very important to be back here in person in a gathering all together, and to be able to reflect on what has happened over the last couple of years. But also they say it's very important for them as Indigenous people here to be moving forward. But I got to tell you as well, it's not just Indigenous communities that are here today. There are people from all walks of life here, Heather, people who have brought their children out here to experience this, which is always a very moving ceremony.
Because that's a big part of it, learning, non-Indigenous people learning about the heritage that we talk about today. Linda, it's good to have you back in your familiar position and telling us all about that. Thank you so much. The sunrise ceremony in Toronto and our Linda Ward.